Hey there, this is Greg from learningx.io and welcome to the video with some badass Figma tips. Let's just jump right in and start with duplicating layers. If you select the layer and then option drag it, and I also recommend holding shift so that you can hold the line, then you can release and press Command D a couple of times to duplicate it within the sequence. Unfortunately, Figma cannot, just make incremental numbers alone, but if you change the names, in here you'll still have the numbers. So one way to sort it out is simply double click on the layer name and delete it and leave it empty. I'm going to press tab right now to go to the next layer name, delete and tab, and then it's going to inherit what's inside of this text layer. Now, fancy circles, well, Figma allows you to create shapes like this pretty easily. What you have to do is select oval tool, and if you now start drawing, this will start from the top left. You can hold shift to maintain proportions. And if you, by the way, want to start from the center, if that's more convenient for you, you can just position the cursor on the center and hold option while starting drawing. Then I'm also going to hold shift, so hold shift option. And if it's still not perfect, you can always tap the space bar and then you can reposition while still drawing. So I can make a shape like this. Now let's change the color. In order to select the color picker, I'm going to press Ctrl C. Now let's select this color. And now if you hover over this shape, you have a little dot. This is arc tool, and it's just as easy as dragging this any direction you want. So let's make it like this, for example. And now you have to change the ratio as well. Like so, you can do it in either direction. So let's change it like this. And I also want rounded corners. You can have rounded corners in there. And that's basically it. Now let's position it correctly. And this is the shape. Applying opacity to literally anything. If you select the thing that you want to apply opacity to, and you know that this should be like maybe 10%, you just press 1 on the keyboard. Now you can see that the layer's opacity changed to 10%. If you quickly press 2 buttons, for example, 1, 5, it's going to change to 15%. If you want to reset it, if you press 0, you're going to have 100. Again, I'm going to leave it at 15, and this was pretty easy. So let me give you another advice in here. So if you want to copy the styles of this particular item, to copy the styles, you're going to press Command Option C instead of simple Command C, and you're going to press Command Option V to paste it. Also, if you want to copy only selected properties, so for example, only stroke or fill or anything that you have in here, you can select it in there and just copy it from here, Command C, then I'm going to select any shape and Command V, paste it. There you go, you're welcome. Now, this is a cool little tip if you want to adjust the position of the element by just scrubbing, or adjust any of the fields while scrubbing, you can do it. So let's adjust the Y position. I'm going to click and scrub it to the left or right, but that's pretty fast. Now, while you are scrubbing, you can also move your cursor up and down, and you see that now I'm scrubbing at 1x, but I can also have 1/8x, and this is now pretty slow, almost at pixel values, and you can easily scrub it like so. So if you want to just scrub it faster, let's go up, and now we can scrub pretty fast. Wow, that's nice. Smart selection now. If you select multiple objects, and it's important to keep them one kind, so for example, layers, groups, or frames. So for this particular example, let's select both of those guys and group them all together like this. So I have all of the groups and frames in here. Now it works, so I can adjust margins, spacing, both vertically and horizontally, and also I can access those little dots to reorganize the elements. So I can change it like so, or I can move it there, then I can move the peaches here, and those one to the left, and that would be it for another sweet tip for you. Now, that's a cool selection method. Well, you can obviously select things like this. If you just hover over different things, you can click on them, and at least you can select groups, and you can select individual frames. However, sometimes it's so much better to simply create a selection that will cover like multiple items or go inside of the items, and you sometimes use this method when you simply click and drag. Now, if you decide that, I don't want to select that, you're going to press spacebar. You can move this around and select this guy or this guy instead. And also this gives you a little bit more abilities, not only to select groups, but also individual layers and layers inside. So sometimes you just might want to create a little pixel like this, hold spacebar, and now you can select a bit different things. Performance tip, sometimes your computer slows down. If you press Command/, then you're going to search for resource use and just preview this in here, you're going to see how many layers you have in the document and how much space does it take in your RAM memory, how much is free, and then you're going to obviously see that's not Figma's fault. Just double click to dismiss it and sort it out somewhere else. Keyboard shortcuts in Figma, a couple of interesting ones. So if you want to navigate between the tabs in the desktop app, you just press Command and the number of the tabs. So for example, if I want to go to tab number 2, I'm going to press Command 2. Command 1 will go back to the first one. Also, you can press page up and page down to navigate between the pages. One more shortcut is Command \. It will hide the interface, the Figma's UI. If you want to bring it back, just press it once more. Or you can right click in here and you have here show and hide UI command. By the way, if you want to just play some games with keyboard shortcuts, why don't you go in here and just use keyboard shortcuts? By the way, keyboard shortcuts has its own keyboard shortcut. If you click on it, you'll see which of the shortcuts you use. They are highlighted in blue, and the ones you didn't. So I didn't use arrow tool. Oh, I just have to press Shift and L. Yep, woohoo, level completed. Next up, a pro tip which stands for prototyping. So I want to make this guy an overlay in the prototyping mode. I need to move it outside of the frame, and this has to be frame itself. So another bonus fantastic shortcut, which is making a frame out of something. If you select something, Command Option G, so like grouping, but you press Option as well, and you have the frame. Now I want to rename it, like let's say OV for overlay. Now let's go to this frame. I also want to hide this rectangle, and let's go to prototyping mode. Now I want this button group to show the overlay, so let's link them together, and in here in action I'm going to select open overlay. The position of the overlay, instead of one of predefined, it's going to be manual, and now I'm going to move it right there to the top. By the way, bonus tip, if you hover outside of this guy and it's still selected, you can use your arrow keys on the keyboard to position it correctly. You can also shift arrow key to just nudge it by 10 pixels or whatever you have specified as nudging value. Now let's go to this overlay background. I want to show the black background, and that would be maybe 55% below this model window, and let's close it when clicking outside. Also, instead of the instant transition, I'm going to move it in from the top and leave the settings as they are right now. I'm going to preview this prototype, and come on Figma. Now when I click on the order button, it goes from the top and animate nicely. I have this black background, 55% opaque, and I can click outside to just reverse the animation. Now another tip is you can just multiply this frame and create some states. So now the activity is selected, but if you want to create any other state, so for example, let's switch to the account and let's quickly go to the design. I'm going to Command C, try to make this color active and also make this one inactive. So I have another state for the account. When you click on the account or this little icon, for example, let's go to prototype. What I can basically do is I can draw a rectangle, an invisible one. So let's go to design and just delete the fill, and I can link this to the next state like so. And what I want to do is swap. So let's use this one. We're gonna leave transition instant, and let's preview this prototype once more. Let's go to order and let's click on the account. Now you have the second state. So this is how you can do it. Let's close it, and it works like magic. Now, what if you want to create an X button? That's pretty common. I'm gonna use this create an X button shortcut in Figma, then position my X button and make sure that the trigger is on click. So when someone clicks on it, I'm going to run the action, and this will be close overlay. You can use open URL or back to just go back to any of the frame that initiated this model, but I'm just going to use close. And now let's preview this. I'm going to play back, and close works as a charm. Now, I've already mentioned nudging, and nudging is one of my favorite things. I know that every designer simply loves nudging. When you press this keyboard arrow up, down, left, and then you nudge it 2 pixels this direction, and you have the sweet spot. So this is like really satisfying, right? So what if you want to change those nudging values? If you press Command/ in Figma and then search for nudge, you'll find nudge amount. And you have this small nudge, which is basically just keyboard arrows, and the big nudge. The big nudge is 10 pixels, and you can obviously change it. So if you press Shift and up or down or left or right, you're gonna nudge by 10 pixels. Okay, nudging down. Next up, selecting things. And everyone knows how to select things, right? If you want to select even nested things, you're gonna press and hold Command, and then you click on the thing that you want to select. Problem is, sometimes you just want to select something like this gray background, and you really can't do it. Why? Because it's locked. Instead of selecting this in the Layers panel, what I recommend doing is pressing and holding Control on your keyboard and then right-clicking. So now, instead of just simple right-click menu, you're gonna have this menu of all the layers inside of, let's say, a group or a frame, and there is my little culprit. So this guy is obviously locked, and yeah, that's why I couldn't select it. So let's click on it, select it, and now you have it in the Layers panel. This is it. Also, if you have multiple locked layers or hidden layers and you want to batch unlock them, what you can do is search in Figma. So let's press Command / and now unlock all objects. This is what you can do, or unhide all objects. So those are two commands that will let you simply unlock everything, and that's pretty cool. Next up, filling with images. So if you have multiple placeholders and you want to fill them with images at once, just press Command-Shift-K on the keyboard, select the images you want to import, and then click, 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 click. You just have to click on the elements to fill them up. That's it. Now, a cool way to bring an image into Figma, if you select any shape, what you can do is basically drag the image from your hard drive and drop it on the fill. And you can also use some GIFs in order to just display within your shape. So it will be loaded in a sec. And now you can access this GIF and you can change the frame. You can change the frame of the, this is cruel, I know. You can change the frame so that it appears, for example, like so. And there on the canvas, you won't have the preview of this GIF. I have a shape underneath. I can also say apply some soft light or multiply to change some colors. But if you play, this GIF will load and playback in there. So this is pretty cool to mock up some preloaders and states and some fancy animations that you want to please the user with. Thanks. One cool thing about copying and pasting, if you want to select and copy something, you just press Command-C, obviously. Then you can go to any frame, and if you select the frame, if you click in the frame and you paste it, this will go at the very top of the stacking order of layers to this frame and will be positioned in the same place where it came from. Now, if you wanted to go up in the stacking order, it's just a case of selecting the layer you want this be to paste it above. And now let's press Command-V, and this will be pasted straight above this selected layer. And one more cool shortcut is if you want to position it within some shape or some layer, it's enough to select it and then press Command-Shift-V, and now it will be positioned at the left top corner of this very selected layer. You probably know the return shortcut that will allow you to adjust the shape. So if you select any of those shapes, you can press return to go into editing mode. Also, you can press Shift-Enter to commit it and go outside. And the same thing goes for the groups. So if you have some groups like this one, now I'm in the slide and I've selected entire group. But if I press return, I'm going to go to calendar. If I press return once again, I'm going to select all of the layers. This comes in handy. And you can also press Shift-Return to go up the stacking order to the very highest group that you've selected. Now let's focus on some tips on text and color, and let's select the text field. So sometimes you have trouble with selecting the proper shade of gray in your project. So what I suggest is starting from black, and then if you enter this field value, what you can do is you can press up and down arrow to adjust it. And if you press and hold Shift on top of it, you have a Shift up arrow to change it towards some lighter colors. And maybe you can press Shift down to again go to some darker colors, and that's how you can easily decide. Also, a nice tip is that if you, let's say, want to copy some styles from CSS, and in the clipboard you have something like this, you know, it's a class and there's a color inside. However, you know, your clipboard is messy, but you can still do it and don't really care. You can just put it in here and paste it, and then press return, and this will convert it into the proper color and take the values out and apply them. Also, and this is a good one, you already know how to change the color of the object. So basically you press Ctrl-C, and then you can click on any other color that you want to apply it with color picker. One tip here is that you can go outside of Figma's window and select some different colors from outside of the app. But another one And this is really nice, is previewing those colors. So if you want to preview those colors, it's enough to click, but don't release just yet, just hold it. And if you click and hold and then you select different colors, you'll have them applied and you can see how it looks with these different colors. So that's pretty nice. In terms of text, that's also useful. You can select the text, Ctrl+C, and then you click and just preview different colors that you have under your cursor. And one side tip, if you want to make this text one-liner, it's enough to select it and double-click on the frame of the text, and that's basically it. Also, one great feature, you guys requested this as a plugin, but this is actually in Figma. If you press Command/, so you go to search, and then you search, let's say for font, you can search for select all with same font. So if you, for example, have an UI kit or you change the font across all of your, company assets, you can select them once and then you can change, for example, for Avenir, and all the same fonts will change accordingly across entire file. That's pretty cool. Let's select this color once again. And one more thing about the color, and this, especially this color picker, is that right now you can scroll with your mouse or just with your two fingers on your touchpad in order to change the hue of the color. That's really nice. And also you can press and hold Option while doing that to adjust the alpha, so the opacity of the color. So you can easily scroll up and down and then press and hold Option and modify opacity. Now, creating multiple components. Let's Command-Shift-Click on different items to select them. Those are not components yet, but I'm going to click on this little icon, and instead of creating one component, I'm going to create multiple components at once. You can see there are a few master components in there. I'm going to press Command-R to change the name, and I'm going to add a prefix. So let's go ahead and add food and then /. I'm going to use the current name afterwards. And let's go ahead and rename it. So right now I can duplicate this artboard, and in the second artboard I have instances, right? Now if you select this instance and right click on it, you can select swap instance, and now Figma figures out that those are similar components. Why? Because they all have food / at the beginning. So now you can select the other fruit from the list and just swap it like so. A couple more things on instances and components. If you select an instance, you can obviously swap it from the right-click menu, but you can also go to the instance in here, and in its properties, you can detach it, and you can also change it to any of the related components, but also you can select basically whatever is linked to this file. And the nice thing here is also you don't really have to search for the master component. You can go to master component from here, so you can click on this link. Usually though, you don't even have to go to the master component, because if you, let's say, want to change something in there, so I'm going to go to this text, and let's maybe change it to 15 or 17 and change some properties as well. Now, if I select this instance once again, what I can do is I can push overrides to master. So if I make any changes from there, from the instance, I can push those overrides and override the master component from within the instance. So that's pretty great. And also, please keep in mind that you can reverse all the changes that you apply as overrides with this little icon. You can reverse individual override, or you can reset all of the overrides made and just go back to the initial state of this component. If you have such components like this one, I'm going to select it and go to the master. Well, it's white, and this is white on white background. So in the assets panel, you're going to just see white thingies in there. So what I prefer doing instead is selecting this component. I'm going to take it out of this frame. Maybe I'm going to create another frame for it and just put it in this frame. But the new frame will basically have some kind of a background. So let's select it and just change the background. You can change it to black color. And now if you go to the assets, you have this on the black color. This is one way you can keep your components nicely organized and visible for all times. Also, similar concept applies to the thumbnails of your project in the file repository. If you go there and instead of the preview of all the artboards on your page, you want to have a nice thumbnail like this. So for example, the name of the app, or maybe a nice screenshot, you can do it. I'm going to just open that file to show you how it's done. Well, basically, you have to have the first page that contains nothing apart from this cover. I usually make this transparent and just create some graphic assets in there. And on the page 2, I have my assets that I work on. So that's how you can make your Figma files a bit nicer. Advanced layer renaming. If you want to change the structure of the layer names, you just have to select them and press Command R. There you have the rename layers. So you can use this preview to select the match. And in the match, you can use regular expressions. If you want to learn more about regex, just take a look at the comment. In here, I'm going to search for the string that contains only small or big letters. And you can see the preview in here. If I add plus in there, I'm going to search for the second part of this string. And what I can also do is I can use parentheses and store this in a kind of variable. I'm going to show you this in a second. Now I'm going to search for another string like this. So this is the first part of my word, and this is the second one. And the separator is this underscore. So now I successfully found all of those layers, and I did this in a kind of complicated way because I want to store these things in variables. So I have two parts right now. And if I search for the first one, which is $1, you're going to see the first part of the word, and $2 is simply the second part after the underscore right now. So what I can do right now is maybe just reverse the words in the sequence, and also I can use some kind of separator, and I can use this slash separator. And that's pretty neat because now I can group it into this modal section. If I want to add another section like assets, let's say, and slash, you can do it as well. Now, if you rename all the layers, there you go. Now, another tip is if I go once more to the renaming layers window, if I decide that the structure is too complicated, I can just remove any parts of the names at once. So if I want to remove modal slash, I'm just going to paste it in here in match, and instead I'm going to just have assets, FATS. So this is pretty cool. Anything you will put in there, so let's say assets, will just delete anything from the string, and I can rename the layers, and I'm ready to go. This is just the beginning of what you can do with this rename option combined with regular expressions, so make sure you get to know them. Now, a bundle of tips here. First off is when you want to find something on the canvas. So let's say you found some layer in the layers panel, but you don't know where it is on the canvas. It's pretty easy. If you press Shift 2, it will zoom into this selected layer. But even easier way is to simply double click on this little icon next to the layer. So for example, this guy and this one. And if I want to select this layer, I simply double click, and that's it. And now what I have are some instances of components. I can right click on them, and you obviously know that I can swap instance in there, and those instances are similar things. So thanks to this modals slash at the beginning, it can group them all together. But this is not the only way you can use this grouping. You can obviously use, let's say, assets before, and then it will have these two levels. And this also applies to, for example, color styles. So that's pretty cool. If you select anything like this, like maybe you want to add this color to the color styles, I'm going to click plus to add it. And in here, instead of just, let's say, yellow, I'm going to say brand / yellow. And this will create a style, but also it will give this kind of a label. And if I'm going to select another one, and let's add this color in here as well. So I'm going to use brand, and now a green, and this is going to be placed under the same label. So in general, grouping and annotating things is a good idea, especially if you're working in the team. So this can help a lot, as well as you can create some kind of hints for, let's say, developers. When you have those master symbols, you can just select them and add some description in the components section. So, hey, this is my description. Yeah, I know it's not meaningful. However, if you label components like this, then if you share this file with anyone, he'll be able to access the code, and now it is inside of this CSS as a comment. And keeping in mind that developers don't really like to talk, this might come in handy. No, just kidding. I know they like to talk about code. So what you can also do is, while saving the file, well, Figma saves files automatically for you. But if you press Command Option S, you will also add this to version history with some kind of title and description. And this is really, really useful, because what you can do in here is you can give some hints to your team on what you actually updated. So this might be, I don't know, icon update. You don't even need to describe it a lot, but it's just the name of the version in version history that will be visible to anyone. And also, if you go to this version history, as you can see, it's not really meaningful. Those are only hours, and if you name the versions instead, at least those major ones, it will be so much easier to just browse them in there. And by the way, if you want to share this specific version with anyone in Figma, you can do it. You can right-click and let's rename this version. That would be icon update, for example. And now I have the whole section for icon updates in there. And what I can do is for any of those autosaves or this particular one, I can right-click and copy link and send it to anyone so that he can access only this version within version control. That's pretty cool. Sharing the link to your file from Figma, you can obviously use this share button, but this window is a bit complicated. If you just want to share the link from the desktop app, you can right click on any of the tab and then copy link as such. Now it's in your clipboard. Well done. Oh, and a bonus tip. What you can do in here is you can go to File and then open file URL from clipboard. So when someone shares the link with you, instead of clicking and opening in browser, you can just grab a link and open it here in the desktop app. That's it. All right, folks, now this is all for this video. Thanks for tuning in and make sure that you watch other videos on learnux.io. See you there.